So in this video, I'm going to show you what happens behind the scenes when syncing AccountEdge to AccountEdge Mobile using Dropbox. So let's first recap how we set this up. Under Setup, AccountEdge Mobile, Manage AccountEdge Mobile. I set up my Dropbox account, I linked it, I created two devices, Ron's iPhone, Tom's iPad. I clicked Sync. And what that did was it went up to Dropbox, created a directory for AccountEdge, and placed a bunch of files in there that represent my different kinds of lists, like accounts and cards and settings. So if we take a look at the Dropbox at this point, we'll be able to see what was created in the Dropbox. And you can get to your Dropbox either by logging into the website or using the desktop app. So here I just logged into the website and I see a folder called AccountEdge. And inside this folder I have my two devices, and within each of those are my lists. So here are the accounts, brands, jobs, there's customer lists, employees, and other settings files. Now if you're going to be using Dropbox for other things outside of AccountEdge, it's important not to use the AccountEdge directory or change anything within the folders, because that could potentially impact your syncing abilities. So now let's take a look at adding a new card to AccountEdge and syncing that to the Dropbox. So we'll go back to AccountEdge and let's go to card file. Go to company. And maybe an email address. Okay. And we'll go ahead and sync this. And what this is doing is it's refreshing my lists, and it's also posting up a change file that tells AccountEdge Mobile that there's a new card on its way. That'll take just about a second. And this indicates that there were no changes that were imported, but we sent up new files. Okay, now if we go back to the Dropbox, let's refresh this. We'll see when we have a new directory that was created called Desktop Changes. And inside here, we'll see cards, and here's information about the new card that was created, and that tells AccountEdge Mobile that a new card is on its way. Now we'll go over to the iPad and we'll do a sync. We'll just bring the iPad in. And when I click AccountEdge, I already set this one up, so it's already been synced once, so it has the main lists, but every time you launch AccountEdge, it's going to go out and look for changes. So we'll launch into AccountEdge. It's checking for updates, and it's going to find that changes file that indicates there was a new card, and AccountEdge Mobile is going to add that new card. So you can see we added one card. Now if we go to cards, cards, and we scroll down, it was called Tom's, it's probably on the bottom, Tom's Company, here's the card that was added. Remember, I didn't add an address or contact information. Now let's go the other direction and we'll create a sale in AccountEdge Mobile. We'll also create a new customer. So let's start here. Create a new customer, we'll call it, maybe it's John Smith. Put an address in. And that's enough information. I'm going to click on sales. We'll create a new sale. Let's create, how about an item order? Done. And we'll go find John, what was it, John Smith, I think? Yeah, John Smith. We'll sell one camera case, just one. Everything else looks good, and we'll save that. Now you'll notice down here there's an indicator that says there's two items to be synced. If we click on here, you'll see here's the item order and the customer card. We want to sync both of these up. We'll sync that. What this is doing is pushing down a new card, and it's also pushing down a new sale. And if we go back to the browser and take a look at Dropbox, to Tom's iPad, there's a new directory called third-party changes, and inside here we have the new card that we're sending down to AccountEdge, and we have that sale that's being sent down. And we'll go over to AccountEdge. We'll click sync. What this is doing, it's going up and it's looking for those changes files that tells AccountEdge that there's a new transaction and there's a new card. And it's pulling that down now. First it's going to create the card, and then it's going to create the invoice. Okay, then when it's done, you get a status saying that a card was added and a new sale. If there were any warnings or errors, it would show up in this dialog box, and it might point you to a file that will explain what the problem is. For example, if I look at my AccountEdge directory, this is in my applications folder. When there's a warning, a new folder gets created called device sync warnings or device sync errors. This is one I did earlier just to show you how that works. This particular one, there was a problem with payment information, and it actually ignored that problem and it imported it anyway. And if it was an error, it might not import, but it'll give you all the details about the sale that there was a problem with, that if you had to, you can always recreate that manually. So to recap, the Dropbox sits between your iPad and your iPhone and AccountEdge, and the Dropbox contains all your master files, including your lists and your transactions. You also want to remember not to change any of the files in the Dropbox within that AccountEdge directory. Doing so is going to impact your sync. And the person using AccountEdge on the desktop, if they want new information to be sent up to the iPad or iPhone user, they need to also remember to use the sync function to send that new data up to the Dropbox so that you can retrieve it.